Come on.
The path was back-breaking. 5 miles along a narrow saddle, a tortuous trek which Alexander's men did at night with snow still in the gullies.
According to the Greeks, their advance guard was led by local guides up onto the rock, and they came on a secret path. And there's only one way that could be, it's this. It comes across this narrow neck of land, which is the only way you can get onto the rock. The ground, as you can see, falls away dramatically on either side, with huge crags on either side. So this must be the route that the Greeks took.
As the path got worse and worse, I found myself wondering why he'd bothered. Were the people on top such a threat to him? The only explanation I could come up with was what the Greeks called Alexander's pothos, his desire to surpass even the gods.
Have you seen Makin Khan?
By nightfall, we'd become separated.
Makin Khan!
Our guides were lost.
We're gonna stop here!
It was pitch dark before we found somewhere to stay, an abandoned mosque used in summer by the shepherds.
It's been an absolutely terrible walk. The terrain is just up and down, and even the donkeys could hardly make it. Much worse than crossing the Khawak Pass in the Hindu Kush, in fact. It almost made me believe that they couldn't have come this way. It's so difficult. You couldn't get an army through there. But if they did, if this was the way, then it is the most amazing demonstration of their absolute determination to overcome their enemies. To show the Indian people that there was nowhere to hide, and that all resistance would be futile.
Next day, in a chill dawn, we looked down on the Indus from 8,000 feet. At 6 o'clock, after cold water and biscuits, we blearily prepared to carry on. It never ceased to amaze me how Alexander was able to inspire his men.
They must have been tough old birds, these Macedonians. That's all I can say. We're nearly there. Come on.
At nearly 9,000 feet, we reached the top of the ridge above Pir Sar. To the north, the snow-capped peaks of the Karakoram. Alexander's men now discovered that a deep ravine lay between them and Pir Sar itself, and unbelievable as it may seem, Alexander ordered his troops to bridge it.
There was about a 500-yard gap that the Greeks needed to bridge. And one tradition says it took 7 days and 7 nights with the soldiers working in relays. Each soldier had to cut 100 stakes, and the engineers presumably were digging big piles in the side of this space here, and they laid a mat of trees, earth and so on, and it rose higher and higher until maybe more than 100 feet above my head. It must have looked something like one of those trestle railway bridges that you see in the Wild West. And within the week, they'd built the causeway up enough to allow their catapults and artillery to concentrate on the Indian defenders, and then the fate of the rock was sealed.
The Indians tried to surrender, but Alexander swept along the ridge and massacred them or drove them off the cliffs. On top, he left an altar to Athena as goddess of victory. Looking out towards the roof of the world, Alexander could reflect he had surpassed even Hercules himself. Back on the Indus, Alexander's engineers had built a huge bridge of boats ready for the crossing. It must have taken them several days. By now the army was like a moving city. There were 64,000 infantry, 12,000 cavalry, camp followers, women, children, scientists, poets, even entertainers. And the surveyors who were still measuring every step from Greece to the end of the earth. And that was getting closer every day. Alexander paused briefly at the ancient city of Taxila on the Grand Trunk Road. Here a Greek city grew up, the first in the subcontinent. A city of neat lines, a place of colonists, set apart from the hubbub of the native town next door. For centuries after, Greek was spoken in these streets just as English is now. In the bazaars you can still find the coins of Alexander's successors, Greek Maharajas lauding it in a Greek Raj.
Ah, this is Greek. Yes, Eucratides the Great. Where did the coin come from? Does he know?
And on their coins, the heirs of Alexander proudly sport the cavalry hat and scarf of Alexander's crack units, with all the swagger of fighter aces, the viciously valiant Greeks, as the Indians called them. So began the meeting of two of the great civilizations in history. Alexander too was shown with the headdress of elephant hide, conqueror of India. That was his ambition now. He marched on south, towards the Great Salt Range. Long before the Grand Trunk Road, this was the ancient route into India.